It is almost spring here in the Northern Hemisphere, and no matter where you find yourself in the world, the seasons are inevitably changing. And I could not be happier about this because being born and raised in California, I really feel like I didn't experience a super deep winter hibernation mode. And this past winter here in Sintra, Portugal was a very wet, windy, and gloomy one. So I'm very happy when the sun is coming out, and it really just brings a whole different side of me out that I didn't really notice before. So that got me thinking about how sometimes our inner world moves through seasons in a way as well. And they don't always have to match the outer seasons. However, it does often help and influence. So maybe you're in one of those seasons where you feel like things are shifting, but you're not quite sure what exactly is happening. You might find yourself thinking, like, I don't even know what I want anymore from firsthand. Having navigated many, many changes, I can tell you, and I know that that feeling is uncomfortable because at the same time, there's this like tension inside of you, this sense that you've outgrown an old way of being. Like, maybe you might not like the things that you once liked, be it in food, in music, in people, the roles you used to play, the way you used to talk, and the expectations that you would carry. And now you're somewhere in between, like who you've been and who you are becoming. Most women think that growth means constantly evolving, doing more, becoming more disciplined, or becoming a better version of themselves. But real growth actually happens when we stop trying to fix ourselves and start trusting ourselves and the natural rhythms of life more deeply. This has been something that I've been thinking a lot about, especially since moving into our new place a little over a year ago. Both my husband and I have filled our home with more plants than I've ever had before. And taking care of all of these different plants has been teaching me something really beautiful about growth, something that helped me understand the difference between surviving, thriving, and flourishing. So, in this video, we are going to explore this difference, and I'm going to share a few simple habits and practices that can help you flourish instead of forcing your growth. When a plant isn't growing well, we first tend to notice the leaves, and then the first thing we check is the soil. Because if the soil isn't healthy, nothing that you plant is going to grow the way that it's meant to. And the more that I thought about that, the more I realized that we're not that different. Now, our soil is our internal environment, our nervous system. If your nervous system is constantly on high alert, trying to grow your life from that place can feel extremely exhausting. You might feel like you're always trying to push yourself to evolve or figure everything out, but real growth starts when your system feels safe enough to soften. Sometimes tending to your roots looks really simple. That's taking a few slow breaths before you reach for your phone in the mornings, going for a short walk outside without your phone at the end of the day, stepping outside and feeling the ground underneath your feet, the sun on your skin. These small moments of regulation are what begin to rebuild something deeper. And creating this sense of internal safety is the foundation for everything else. And a lot of people try and do it backwards. It's what allows you to gently move out of the survival mode and into a state where growth can happen on its own. This isn't about just thinking positive thoughts. It's about using bottom up strategies that speak directly to your body in its own language. The key here is consistency. When you practice these small acts of regulation, even for a few minutes, you are gently retraining your brain and your body. This practice builds genuine self trust. When you consistently show up for yourself in these small ways, you create deep embodied confidence. You start to trust that You can handle life's challenges without being constantly overwhelmed. You learn to tell the difference between real threats and the echoes of old stress and learn to actually complete stress cycles so that you're not on this constant hamster wheel of needing to put out fires. Because flourishing doesn't begin with doing more, it begins with preparing the ground, the foundation. So let's practice this for a moment. I invite you to exhale the air out of your lungs and then take a slow breath for a moment in through your nose, filling up your bottom of your belly, feeling your rib cage expand, and then your chest. And then exhale, letting your shoulders and your jaw and any tension in your body soften. Taking a few more nourishing breaths, and just notice your body for a moment. As you curiously and gently ask yourself, where in my life do I feel like I'm surviving right now? And what might it look like to create just a little more safety and nourishment there, even if it's 5 or 10%? Trust what comes up, even if it isn't anything. You don't have to solve anything right now. Simply be in this curious, open space to notice. Sometimes we move through life feeling like everything is a race. Now, coming from Los Angeles, this was a bit of a shock for me, and it's kind of like we're trying to catch up to some version of ourselves that we think that we should already be. But what if your life is not a race? What if it's more like a garden that grows in seasons? Some seasons are for planting, some are for the messy work of weeding and letting things go, and some seasons are for quiet, invisible growth, the kind that happens underground before anything even blooms. So, if you feel like you've been in a waiting period, or if you are in a waiting period right now, or a transition where things aren't fully clear yet, that doesn't mean that you're behind. It might simply mean that you're in the middle of a process that is still unfolding. And this is a beautiful time to really lean in and resource yourselves. So, I'm going to share a few journal or reflection prompts for you to write and to help you through this process if this is where you find yourself. If you enjoy journaling or reflecting, here are a few journal questions that you just might want to sit with later. I will hopefully remember to put them down in the description below. You can write them down now or simply let yourself ponder on them and come back to them after this video. The first one is, what part of your life right now feels like survival? Maybe you find yourself rushing or trying to get somewhere in some area. The second is, what part of your life feels like you're striving or pushing to grow? What might it look like to create the conditions for flourishing instead? Another question you might explore is, what have I quietly outgrown that I haven't fully allowed myself to release yet? And finally, what season of life do you feel like you're in right now? Remember that you do not need the perfect answers. Sometimes the power of reflection is simply giving yourself permission to ask the question. Another thing I had to learn pretty quickly as a new plant mom is that sometimes growth actually requires cutting things back. At first, that felt wrong. Like you're literally trimming leaves off of a plant that looks healthy, but pruning is what allows the plant to redirect its energy and grow stronger. Our lives sometimes ask us to do the same thing. This is about asking yourself, what is no longer serving the person I am becoming? Now, this isn't about being ruthless and just cutting people out. It's an act of self respect. This could mean pruning commitments from your schedule that always leave you feeling drained. It might mean creating some distance from relationships that seem to thrive on negativity or criticism. It could also mean pruning old thought patterns like the belief that your worth is tied to your productivity or the idea that you always have to be the strong one. One of the most powerful things you can prune is an outdated identity. Maybe you've outgrown being the peacemaker who avoids conflict at all costs, or the overachiever who feels like they can't say no. Letting go of these roles can feel scary, but it creates space for a more authentic version of you to finally emerge. Times it's just one intentional cut with love to be able to redirect and allow yourself to grow in different ways. Start small. Start this month. Identify one thing, a commitment, a thought pattern, a relationship dynamic that feels like it's taking up the sunlight and the water without giving much back. Give yourself the permission to let go lovingly, gracefully. You don't have to burn the whole garden down. Just make one intentional cut. You might be surprised at how much energy is freed up when you let go. Letting go is how you make room for what truly is meant for you. After preparing your soil and pruning what is no longer needed, the third practice is to honor your natural rhythm. A good gardener knows that you can't treat winter like it's summer. Every season has its different purpose, and the needs of a plant are different. So it needs a different kind of care. Forcing a plant or a garden to produce fruit all year round will only lead it to maybe die. And in our human case, that's burnout and depletion. And yet, that's exactly what many of us demand of ourselves. We expect to be in this constant state of creation, of production, of always blooming, of always being full of energy. And when we inevitably hit a season of quiet rest or feeling less productive, we judge ourselves for it and then end up even more exhausted because we rest, but we're not fully allowing ourselves to rest and are feeling guilty for not doing these other things. So we think that we're being lazy or falling behind when in reality, we are just in a winter season. Attuning to your season means learning how to align your expectations with your natural cycles of growth and rest. There are seasons for planting new ideas and starting new projects, like your springtime. There are seasons for visible growth and building momentum, like summertime. And then there are seasons for harvesting the rewards of your work and enjoying what you've created, your autumn or fall. Most importantly, there are seasons of rest, stillness, and invisible, deep, foundational, and very necessary work, which is wintertime. During winter, it might look like nothing is happening on the surface, but underneath, your roots are growing deeper. You're processing, you're integrating, and restoring your energy for this next cycle of growth. Please know that this is not wasted time. This is really essential work. Rest, reflection, and mindfulness may look passive, but they are profoundly regenerative. Honoring your season is the antidote to exhausting pressure of constantly thriving. It gives you permission to stop forcing and start flowing. So ask yourself honestly, what season do I feel like I'm in right now? Is this a season for new beginnings? A season of creating momentum? A season of harvesting? Or a season of deep rest? Once you recognize your season, adjust your expectations and care for yourself accordingly. Give yourself permission to be still. Trust that growth is still happening even when you cannot see it. Your natural rhythm is one of your greatest sources of wisdom, and what is for you will not go by you. So maybe the season you're in right now isn't asking you to push harder. It's most likely asking you to listen more deeply to the quiet signals of your body, to the parts of you that feel tired of forcing, and to the wisdom that's been there all along. Because flourishing doesn't come from constantly trying to become someone new. It comes from learning how to care for the conditions of your life, just like a garden. You tend to the soil, you prune what no longer belongs, and you learn to honor the season that you're in. And when the conditions are right, growth happens naturally, not forced, but because you finally gave it space. And this is when you truly begin to enjoy the process and feel nourished in different areas of your life. And the example that really brought this to life for me, because now we also have a bit of a front garden space, is the weeds. The weeds are so resilient. They're so, in a way, stubborn. They thrive in the hardest of conditions. And then I have some plants that are barely surviving. And it really got me thinking, like, the difference between surviving, like you're just hanging on for dear life, trying to make it through your day with like kind of bare minimum. And then we're taught to strive to thrive, which I think is so beautiful. And I think it's a really important part of the growth journey. And at the same time, it's not sustainable. And flourishing is completely different. That's when you are nourished. It's like in this beautiful reciprocity that you're in with yourself, with your body, your mind, your spirit, and the people around you. And so, wherever you are, if you're in the in between season right now, where maybe you feel that you've outgrown your old way of being, but you're still learning how to fully step into who you're becoming. That is exactly the kind of season I love supporting women through. Learning how to flourish isn't something that we're taught. And sometimes having support during that in between season makes all the difference because it moves you from being the strong one, holding it all together and having to figure it all out to then having space to be nurtured. And this is why I created Flourish, a spring one on one coaching space for women who are ready to stop shrinking into old versions of themselves and start living from deeper self trust. And more importantly, creating the routines that support them in their lives, in their relationships, in their careers. Over 3 months, we focus on rebuilding internal safety, strengthening your nervous system, and helping you make decisions and hold boundaries from a place that feels grounded and true for you. So instead of constantly trying to figure yourself out, you begin living from a place that simply says, I trust myself. I have my back. If something in your body felt like a yes while listening to this video, you can learn more and apply through the link in the description. Now, as you sit with this, I'm really curious about something. After everything we've talked about in this video, surviving, striving, thriving, flourishing, where do you feel like you are right now? Are you in a season of survival, just getting through? A season of striving to thrive where you're trying to grow and figure things out? Or are you beginning to step into flourishing? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single message and it genuinely helps me understand what season this community is moving through together. And if this conversation resonated with you, you'll probably enjoy the next videos here too, because this channel is really about learning how to grow in a way that feels intentional, sustainable, spacious, and most importantly, deeply aligned with who you truly are. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video.